live. What do you mean I do not have permission to stream? Happy Wednesday, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of Transformational Tuesdays, happening on a Wednesday due to some technical issues on my end yesterday. So when, life goes sideways, we just pivot. I didn't want to do this without a computer. So here we are on a Wednesday instead, and hopefully some of you out there will be able to join us today. So my name is Jackie. For those of you who don't know me personally, I am a soul truth illuminator and quantum guide. I work with mainly women who are looking to liberate themselves from the boxes that they found themselves in, all of the expectations of other people, walking around, focusing on people pleasing all the time and completely losing track of who you are and what you are here to do. So I help them liberate themselves from those boxes, do a deep dive back into their soul to reconnect with your I am so that you can start thriving in your life. And with me today, I have my colleague, Rick. So Rick, I will let you introduce yourself and tell all the wonderful people what you do.
Well, thank you, Jackie. And it's a pleasure to be here with you guys today. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Rick Boone. My wife and I co-founded Transcendent Coaching about 2 years ago. And we've been on a wonderful journey through neurolinguistic programming, hypnosis, and really diving deep into ourselves. And as a guy, this required me to be extremely vulnerable with myself because I didn't really realize what was missing from me. I was doing everything I thought that I was supposed to do. I was working a lot of hours at a job, giving my family a great home, giving them everything I thought that they would want, that society tells us that we should want, giving them all the comfort and things that we all see on TV. Yet something was always missing in my life. And I never could put my finger on exactly what it was. I just knew something wasn't right. And kind of all culminated when I was watching my son wrestle, and that's actually him up on the wall there. So it's not me, that's him. But we're at a tournament late his junior year, so he's 17 years old. And as a dad, I never cared how good he did. It was all about him learning and growing, becoming a man through the sport.
Yeah. Because
it teaches him those things that you don't get to learn out in society right now. And at the end, we're kind of unpacking just what'd you learn today? What'd you learn about yourself? And I got one of those questions that probably every dad will and mom will recognize, did I do okay? Do you still love me, basically, is what he was asking me, even though I failed. And I was like, holy, you know what? Because all of a sudden all the flags flew up and I'm sitting here like, where did this come from? Because this is a kid 3-4 years ago that was even getting his butt kicked would smile and have fun. It ate him up that he lost, and he pushed himself to work hard. He was working out, 4 times a week in the gym, putting in double practices with the skills. And all of a sudden he lost all that passion because something clicked the wrong way. He didn't realize just that he was different and built differently, mentally, physically, and emotionally. And the pieces didn't fit together anymore. And so many guys out there that I'm running into, and a lot of kids that I work with, are recognizing that, as men, we're built to go hunt, to protect, to provide, to be strong, courageous, have a code of honor, and really set an example of what to push our family forward, to grow that. And at the same time, society's telling us, no, you're not allowed to be that. No, you can't be that masculine guy. You can't be that alpha male that you're designed to be. So you can see the confusion that this is causing for men out there. And this is my passion because it was me. And there was nobody out there at that time that was doing this for men.
Yeah.
All the kids that I've worked with through the sports, all the men that I'm working with, they are pushing the paper for somebody else's dream. And yet they don't know what their own dream is because they've never taken the time to look inside and see, what am I really doing this for? And all the old stuff that we were taught, all the cowboy movies, all the John Wayne stuff, guys don't cry, you don't do this. Men are starting to wake up and realize that they are connected deeper to their purpose. And when they take that time and give it to themselves, all of a sudden, their relationship with themselves, with their family, with their work, their finances, their community, all of a sudden starts blossoming because they took the time to go inside themselves and find out what their inner part needed to bring out into the world. And I know, Jackie, I know that people in your group here, they resonate with this totally because there's so many women that are vulnerable enough to do this.
Yes.
And guys don't like sharing that vulnerability because a lot of times that gets taken as a weakness. And it's really not a weakness when you're that open with your partner, with somebody that you're sharing your life with. And we were just talking about this, just briefly before we jumped on here. But what happens when a guy really shares that vulnerability with you? As a woman, I'll share the story of my wife when I was going through the NLP journey, the neuro-linguistic programming. And it was mid-August, and I was hitting one of those points where everything's kind of crashing around me. My fridge quits working in my house. The dogs are going crazy. The kids are completely out of control all of a sudden. And it's like, what the heck just happened? Why did this bomb just go off in my house? And really, it was my energy because I was hitting that up level to go to that next level and learn more about myself.
Yeah.
So I went out and did some rage work. I went out and just split some wood until I had blisters on my hand. And I was finally able to work through the energy that my emotions were giving me. And then I shared part of that with my wife as we went to go get a punching bag so I could expend that energy a couple more days. We're driving in the car and actually was just kind of verbally asking her to write it out so we could go get this before the store closed.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there talking about, as a guy, feeling like I'm a volcano.
Mm-hmm.
That when my anger and my rage hits a certain point, that I just literally explode and I burn everything down around me. And I know that there's a lot of that happens, especially for men, because we're told that our anger, our rage, our frustration is not acceptable in society today. So we have to learn how to apply that and move it through different avenues so that we stay healthy within ourselves.
Yes. I think it's a good reminder for people when you talk about you needed to move the energy of your emotions, and to remind everyone that our emotions are energy in motion, right? There's two things about that. There's the energetic level of it, where we've got to do something with the emotion, right? Rather than push it down. Because this is what most people do, is we go, we don't want to deal with this. I don't want to feel this way. Push it down, push it down, push it down. Right? Versus what you're talking about. And I have also done rage work. So it's good for men and women, because women tend to, what in my experience, and not this is a generality, right? It's not all men or all women, because I know both on the flip side, but those men tend to explode outwards, where women tend to take it and internalize it, right? We're not as likely to explode in rage. And this is how I ended up being identified an angry, nice girl, because I wouldn't actually express. It's not that I didn't get angry. I got angry all the time. I didn't express my anger. So, the one thing about learning, both men and women, learning how to work through whatever emotion comes up, whether it's anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt, doesn't matter. How do we move through that? And how do we express it in a way that's healthy, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time, this miscommunication, and this is what we were talking about before we got on this live, this miscommunication of when we get vulnerable and we don't feel heard, right? Or have our feelings acknowledged, what do? Right? On either side. So why don't we start? I'd like to explore that.
Okay.
From a male perspective, right? What are men, for the women out there, what are men looking for when when they do open up, because the last thing we want as women, because I mean, for me, I know in my experience, you know, you want a man who is willing to share his emotions with you, right, and to be vulnerable and real and raw. How do you support that so that they don't go back into their cave?
That's a great point. I think to start with is to recognize that most men handle and work through their emotions totally different than women. And I didn't realize this until just a couple months ago, because I always thought I bottled my emotions up.
Yeah.
I actually went outside and did stuff and just unconsciously went and did stuff when I was angry or something. I told my wife, look, when I'm angry, let me go away. Let me go do something by myself so I can. And I didn't realize it, but I was moving the energy and working with it to create, to destroy if I was doing yard work or something like that, cutting wood, whatever that may be. I was doing physical activities that was allowing me to transition that energy out into something productive in my mind.
Yeah.
And once I realized that and I said it out loud, it was like, oh, holy cow. And most guys don't even realize it because that's just what we've been taught to do.
Yeah. Or it's
And
innate.
this is, yeah. And that piece of you're using it to create strength.
Mhm.
And that's why a lot of guys are going to the gym so much right now and pumping the weights, because they're using that frustration that they have in their lives to create and do stuff to build themselves and make them better. And when they open up, and for me personally, and I'm not going to generalize, but for me personally, when I opened up to my wife and I literally looked at her and I said, is that too much? And she was like, I got like, holy cow, like the deer in the headlights look, because it was a little bit overwhelming to see that much of me. You know, we've been together 25 going on 26 years, and she still gets a little bit intimidated by that piece.
Mhm.
And as most women should. I mean, that's kind of the danger that guys bring. And we need to be able to express that danger to our partner so that when danger comes, we can step up to it so that we can protect you.
Yeah.
As guys, we like to fix things.
Yeah.
And we don't necessarily like to be fixed until we're really ready to see, holy cow, I'm broken. So when a guy opens up and is vulnerable like that, you need to just hear him and be like, what do you need me to do? How can I help you? So that they're recognizing that they got heard.
Yes.
Most guys, while their love language may be physical touch and they love to be kind of touch their women and things like that, they aren't heard.
Mhm.
And that is such a big piece for men, is to actually be heard with what they're saying.
Yes.
And you know, we know with the NLP stuff how we have inferential speakers and inferential listeners, and then literal and
Yeah.
as well, and everything in between.
Yeah.
So when that guy is really, and women too, for this point, when they open up and they really realize that they were heard, all of a sudden that fills that need, that basic human need that we all have of being recognized.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you for sharing that with me. How can I help you? And I know, those pieces would have been huge for me. And I'm sitting here listening, and like my inner child's like, oh my God, yes. And I know it's kind of odd for a guy to say that, because that inner child of us is such a big piece.
Well, and wants to be recognized, wants to be seen, wants to be heard, wants to be acknowledged. All of those. I mean, that's, children and their attention-seeking behavior. I don't think that
Yep.
changes as we get older. We still all desire love and affection and attention. In it's how we go about getting it. Now, I have a question though. If you're saying the question to ask is how can I help you, that presupposes that they need help. So and this is me and my linguistics right now, would it be, is there something you need from me? Or is there something that I can do to support, versus saying help? I don't
Any
know.
of those may work. Those are all valid points. For me, just, I'm not big on a support thing because that shows more that I'm weak.
Okay.
Where my wife would have said, okay, how can I help you? What can I do? Is there anything that I can do to help you? And it was like,
That's
yeah,
it.
well,
Is there anything that I can do? Is there anything that you want or need from me?
yes.
Okay.
And every guy's going to be different. And depending on where they're at in their journey, they may be ready for that and they may shut down at that. So women you're going to have to kind of just roll the dice a little bit. I hate to be just kind of, like that with it, but you've spent enough time with your partner, what would he be open to that?
So it's really about the acknowledgement piece versus needing to, because I mean, as women and in that feminine energy, we want to nurture,
Yes.
right? We want to most women would want to hug and want to like hold you or whatever it was, and may show, I know for me, that would be more of what I would do, because I recognize that men are the ones who like to fix things, even when I don't need things fixed. And right, that's their go-to. And so for me, that's not, although I did realize today in a conversation that maybe I am doing that unconsciously, right? And that's probably my coach role and things like that, right? When I have an idea of, he says, we'll do it this way. And I go, well, hold on 1 second. I think this way would work better. So now I want to do it this way. And then he hasn't felt heard.
Yes.
Because I've attempted to give another solution or vice versa.
Yeah. When literally, I mean, I look back and honestly, if I know we were driving at the time when I shared that with my wife, but had I've gotten just a hug and say thank you from her for recognizing that I could actually share that with her.
Yes.
Because I knew the level of my own, my own darkness. Yeah. I've sat with it many, many times and I used to go very deeply with it. And most guys have that within us. And we've been taught to fear that. And this is kind of that duality that we have with the light and the dark. We've been taught to fear the dark and want to sit in the light.
Yeah.
In reality, we need to be neutral enough to ride that wave that the two forces together give you, so that all of a sudden you're powerful. Because when you understand what the darkness can give you with the good coupled from the light, all of a sudden your strength, your courage, your mastery, your honor, that true masculinity comes out and lets you just be who you're meant to be. You don't have to put on the masks and hide behind it all anymore.
Yeah.
You're able to sit there with it and, just be the line between the two, that yin and the yang. And that's where most men kind of, I don't want to, and I'm not labeling guys with this, but most men struggle with that because we're always kind of on one side or the other, where that pendulum that swings back and forth nonstop. Yeah. And society hasn't allowed us to evolve that piece out with the way we are right now, because we don't have our rituals like we used to. We don't have opportunities for the vast majority of guys to go out into the woods and to hunt, to provide, to do things, create things differently like we used to be able to.
Yes.
And I know the world's evolving, and that's why this whole masculinity piece needs to evolve as well. Because it's not that the alpha males that are running companies and are doing the stupid things are wrong. They are. But their masculine traits that they're embodying are not wrong.
Yes.
And the other side of it is the guys that are softer are not wrong either. But we have a spectrum here of guys, and we can't say that this is what it is, because how many people out of the 80 billion that live on the earth can actually walk that line? And I probably got the number wrong, but that's not the point. How many people can fit that narrow scope that's provided? It says, this is what it is. Yeah. If you look at me, I'm a big guy. I'm a big, powerful man. I love to do stuff. I love to create. I love to destroy. I've, as part of my rage work this past fall, I've cleaned off my entire slope in front of my house. I had briars and stuff that were grown 12 feet tall, and they're all gone. Yeah. And at the same time, I love to be a guy. But then when it's time to put on a different hat to sit with my wife I know how to sit and be calm and be loving and support her the way she needs it. So it's just navigating that life and the flow of it as part of all this. And our society's gotten away from that piece of it and told guys, and not just guys, but so many of us, that we're not allowed to be the hero of our own story anymore.
Yeah.
If you're not the hero of your story, you're living somebody else's story. And we need to get back to that piece of finding why we do what we do and what drives us so that we can really be those heroes. And the heroes don't have to be the Achilles. They don't have to be the, the Leonidas from 300 or these crazy guys, you know what I mean? They can be everyday guys that turn into the Don Torettos and the Fast and the Furious, that have that code, that honor that they live by, which is why that franchise was so popular.
Yeah.
He created a code. Yes, the cars and the sex and everything else was part of it, but the code that he lived by was what really drew in the hardcore guys into that world. And that piece is what's missing. And that's why, the school systems, for what they are, they don't let boys be rough anymore.
Yeah.
That's why the bullying's kind of gotten to where it is. It's not the bad kids. My own son, that's him up there. He was a wrestler. By the time he graduated high school, he's 195 pounds, and he was a tough kid. When he was in 7th grade, he was 75 pounds, and he was one of the kids getting bullied.
Yeah.
And when he stood up for himself, the principal told him that they could have him arrested because he stood up for himself against a kid that was bullying him.
Yep.
How is that? Think about the message that that's sending to our boys and even our girls, because I know it's, so many of us resonated with the Mean Girl movies, right? That stuff is real. And these kids just need to learn how to work through those emotions and those needs that are real for them so that they can understand why they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah, I don't think we're justifying using violent means to stand in your power, because this is the interesting thing about power. For, women may often view men, like you're talking about, like that dominant strength, and that they're power and can have power over you, right? And there's a difference between that and what we've learned in the work that we've done, which is that your inner power is actually very quiet. It's literally the ability to stand in your truth and speak your truth. So when bullies are coming at you or people are saying things to you, you can stand there and go, this is not true. I will not believe it. And be able to speak the words that you need to speak in a tone that says, I mean business, but without yelling and screaming and punching and kicking and all of these other things. There are other ways.
Absolutely.
For both men and women, because I know women who are just as good at getting physical, right?
Yeah. Yeah. The power isn't like a domination power. That's not what I'm talking there, because I know there's guys that use that and they're wrong.
Yes. So I
Okay.
just wanted to make sure that was clear for everybody.
Yeah, no, I thank you for that, because that's definitely, I don't want that conversation, because those guys that are doing that, they are effed up and they're wrong.
Yeah.
I'm talking about a guy when he grabs his partner, his woman, his partner. When he grabs her, and that power that he has within himself creates a space that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
That my wife, when I grab her like that, and she just kind of melts in a good way.
That's
Yes, that safety, that power, because you're that dangerous guy, all of a sudden you create that safety around them.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's not that I don't use that in that negative way, because I know at my core that I'm a hero. I am a rescuer. If a damsel's in distress out there, I'm going to go save her, because that's how I'm wired.
Yes.
That's me.
Yeah.
And it's understanding that's, understand who you are at your core, and then you can be the person that you're meant to be.
Yes.
And when everybody stands on that platform, then you have that power behind you, within you, and it just exudes into everything else in your life.
Yes.
And we quit chasing that dream of everything else that we think we need to have.
Well, and I think it's regaining that sense of self. I think men are just as much at risk of becoming people pleasers and attempting to keep everyone and provide for everybody and do everything for everybody around them, that they're also at risk of losing themselves in the mix. In terms of, and we all have this, right? Revisit that idea of, what do you really want in your life? What are your dreams? What are your goals? What are the things that you keep pushing to the side because you're too busy attempting to help everyone else reach their goals and dreams, and so on. So, Rick, we only have a few more minutes, but I wanted to, I know that you're running a workshop and that it is aimed at men to help them to be able to start to look at themselves and this idea of masculinity and the dualities of masculinity in more detail. Do you want to share a little bit about what you're doing in that workshop and when the next one is?
Yes. So thank you. So it's going to be held on February 4th at 10 o'clock in the morning. And right now the title is Power versus Force. Force being that dark side, power being that light side, and using that force and power to create the future that you want.
Mhm.
And we're using this in the idea of the tale of two wolves, the dark wolf and the white wolf, using that to help men take off the mask of who they think they need to be for everybody else and hiding who they really are at their core. Yeah. And when you understand this full piece, it lets you take that duality that we really are and combine that into a powerful, dangerous man that goes after what he wants in his world. And I think that's the message men need to hear today.
I agree.
So we're gonna run that on the 4th. It's on our Instagram page, and I'll be sharing that post, the link into the group again after this is done.
The link is also at the bottom of this actual live. And you can follow Rick on Instagram. The Primal Brotherhood is the name of your Instagram.
Yes.
And yeah, and I strongly encourage, I mean, for any women who catch this, who have men in their lives who are looking to explore this a little further, or, they're struggling with who they are, and want to sit with other men, because I think this is the very cool thing that Rick is doing, is creating these spaces where men can be men and you can be raw and vulnerable in a space where you don't have to appear to be weak in front of women, right? This idea that it's a safe space where you can all express yourselves freely without having to worry about how that's going to be viewed, because everyone in that group is in that same space of self-discovery.
Yeah, beautifully said. Thank you.
Which is amazing. So I encourage everyone to share Rick's workshop with whoever you feel called may benefit from it. If you have any questions, you can also connect with Rick on Instagram, and the link for that is also below. And if you struggle there, reach out to me and I will 100% get you guys connected. So Rick, thank you so much for coming to spend time with me today. Next week, I have Jennifer Jane coming on, who is started a new fempreneur website for women in business who want to create content and blogs, and how can you get 1% better a day. So that will be next week. I look forward to seeing everyone next Tuesday. Have a beautiful rest of your Wednesday. And I will see you all again soon. Thank you again, Rick.
Thank you.